the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
You are now watching the Amazin Mets pregame show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazin Mets pregame show right here on the channel. As you can tell, I am solo for the pregame for tonight's game against the Mets and the Yankees Subway Series 2024. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't be here for the pregame, but you know he is pumped up for tonight's game and this series, or two-game set, I should say. So shout out to CP who can't be here. So if you're not a subscriber of his channel, please do. Next step is to get into 1,000 subs, and that is the goal for us, to get him there. And that's what we're going to do over the course of the rest of the season. But today, June 25th on a Tuesday, the Mets and Yankees start their Subway Series campaign at Citifield. And the Mets, who are on a hot streak and playing the best baseball of the season and are the hottest team in baseball in the month of June, are facing a Yankees team that does have the best record in baseball, that is one of the best teams in baseball, and is a team that is just a good team. But they have been struggling, right? I believe they lost 3 series in a row. They're under 500 against teams that are over 500 and that are really good. And we can have an argument of if the Mets are good or not. At the moment, they're good because of the way they're playing. Now, record obviously doesn't, tell you that. But over the last, about 25 games, they are red hot, right? They're winning series. They're playing well. They're finding ways to win, regardless of the performance that they might get from their starter, or the offense doesn't show up, or the bullpen doesn't show up. They're finding ways to win. And signs of a good team, which the Mets are starting to become, or if you can put them in that column, they're right on the border of being a good team, maybe slightly above that. Good teams find ways to win regardless of the situation and what cards they are dealt during each game. And I think it's important to realize that going into today, and I think another series win again on Sunday against the Cubs and winning that series, which was, let's be honest, the most important series of the season. And the Mets told you that by pushing Severino from the Yankee series to that Cubs series to pitch in that rubber game. They told you that game and that series mattered more than pitching Luis Severino against the Yankees. And I brought this up yesterday on the roundtable, and I also brought up on the other post game on Sunday that the New York Yankees, look who they got lined up. They got Garrett Cole and Luis Gil, right? The Yankees clearly were setting themselves up. They set themselves up for the Baltimore series. That didn't go well, right? And it also set them up for what is the next two games in Cole and Gil at Citifield against the Mets. So like I said, I'm not saying the Yankees were worrying about the Mets, because they should, if they're worried about the Mets when they have one of the best records in baseball, then they got to reconsider what they're trying to do in 2024. But they are a very good team. They're a dangerous team. Yes, they got injuries. Every team does, right? If you listen to WFAN, you hear. If you listen to Yankees fans, you think they're not in a wild card or in a division lead, and one of the best teams in baseball. They're still extremely good. They're still extremely dangerous. And yes, Met fans are confident right now because they're playing well. But we also know that these games are not going to be easy. These games are never easy. Regardless of all, the Mets are bad, the Yankees are bad, nobody's playing well. These series are always competitive. It's rare that there's blowouts. It happens, but it's rare. The 2-game series is not really something to, go crazy about, because a lot of the times they're splits, right? Ever since they changed the 6-game series as 3 at City and 3 at Yankee Stadium and changed it to 2 and 2, it's kind of, in my opinion, lost its luster a little bit, because you don't really win a series, right? Unless you sweep, even winning 2 games in a row is like, oh, that's cool. You get some bragging rights if whatever team fan base has the bragging rights for those 2 games. It still doesn't feel like a series. So, there's a pretty good chance that this series is going to split, and that's probably best case scenario for a team like the Mets that are trying to maintain where they are or try to get even closer to a wild card spot, because we all talked about this 100 million times. The New York Mets season ends at the trade deadline. That is the unofficial end to their season, because after that could mean absolutely nothing. Now, we're hoping that it still means something and we're playing meaningful second half baseball, but we don't know that yet, right? The Mets have played 76 games. Tonight is 77. If you do the math, and I've done this many times, you played the 107th game on the trade deadline. So that means probably game 105, 104, 105, 106 that week. Probably when you hit game 100 is when deals start being made. The trade deadlines talked about more. The New York Mets over the next 25 to 30 games, I would say 25 games, have to be within striking distance. Now, if they're a game and a half out like they are now, and the deadline's here, I find it hard to believe that the Mets are going to be in full sell mode. Now, with the reports coming out that they might sell on 1 or 2 of the 1-year deal type of pitchers to maybe get some assets, maybe bring up the young kids in Scott and Buto, which some people might absolutely like and think it's a good idea. But you're also putting Jose Buto and Christian Scott into a playoff run, a playoff stretch of baseball in the second half that all the games are going to matter. So if they don't do well in those situations, well, most people wanted that to happen. And I want people to understand that, it sounds good on paper. It sounds good in your mind. Christian Scott and Jose Butto over, let's say, Quintana and Sean Manaea. Say if they trade those two guys to bring in some assets, but bring up Christian Scott and Butto to replace them, doesn't mean because in all of our minds we know they're good, doesn't mean that they're going to be successful when the pressure is on and the Mets are trying to have a meaningful second half. So, it always sounds great, but that doesn't mean that they're going to perform in those spots. And at least with Sean Manaea and Jose Quintana, they've been around the block before, right? Sometimes you want those veterans in those certain spots. Not saying that I believe that those two guys are going to be better than Christian Scott and Jose Butto. It could be the exact opposite. It could be better, but we don't know that. And I feel like too many people are just throwing Quintana and Manaea or any of the pitchers that people won't want to get rid of in the starting rotation and just bring those guys up and think it's all going to be much better when there's a possibility that it might not be. Because as much as people are complaining about Quintana, complaining about Manaea, the starting pitching, all of them did hold it down until the offense actually remembered that they're playing baseball in 2024. So we forget that because it's out of our minds now, right? But in the month of April, the starting pitching kept this team afloat when the offense was absolutely putrid and garbage. We forget that, right? Even Quintana wasn't great, but he was a guy that kept you in games. And the starting pitching was very good in April and parts of May. The bullpen and the offense was the problem in May. So we talk about the starting pitching like it is a major problem when, in all reality, it was probably the least of our worries over the first 3 months of the season. Now, we always want better, obviously. But to make it seem like the starting pitching is the major reason for the Mets not being a few games over 500 or better, it's not because of the starting pitching. At least it ain't the main reason. I mean, if you have to rank them, the offense is number one, the bullpen is number two, and the starting pitch is number three in concern. That's what it was. Now, because the offense is doing what they were supposed to do the whole season, people forget that the offense for 2 months was nowhere to be found. And if it wasn't for the supporting cast of the bottom of the order and the starting pitching, this team, we would be talking about sell mode because this team would have been down in the dumps and probably lucky if they had 30 wins. So before we jump to, let's just bring up this guy and that guy, which I'd rather bring them up and figure out how to keep the veteran pitching around because, yeah, the young pitch is nice. But again, in pressure situations, we haven't seen Christian Scott or Jose Butto play in pressure situations, right? You might think they do well, but we don't know that. We don't know that until we see that. So, and I always like to go with the experience over somebody that we don't know because a lot of Met fans think that it's going to be, kumbaya, because you're bringing up Christian Scott and Jose Butto, and you might be trading off a couple of guys, one or two guys in your rotation that kept you afloat for the first 3 months of the season while your offense figured it out. And you're losing that veteran experience. And yes, it might work out, but if it doesn't, who are you going to blame? I guarantee Met fans who probably wanted those moves to happen are going to blame David Stearns. And that's probably what's going to happen. And it sucks. But right now, here today, game 77 of the season, it's the Subway Series. Why is it important? Well, in the Mets case, they put themselves so far behind the 8 ball. They were 11 games under 500. Now they have to claw back, fight back, scratch back to get back into relevancy, and they did that. When 99% of this fan base buried them and thought the season was over, which I can't blame you. But this is also a team that, me included, didn't believe in this core. Now, I'm still skeptical because they can do it for 3 weeks, but can they maintain it through a season? Can they maintain it when the games matter? Not after the deadline in August comes around and Lindor and Alonso are having great August and Septembers when the team, because that's what matters, the team is irrelevant and is out of it and there's no pressure, right? When the majority of players in baseball pad their stats, when their team is out of it and there's no pressure at all. So we've played well. We played extremely well. I can't even say we've just played good. We played extremely well. The hottest team in baseball. I don't know if anybody caught MLB Network today, but Joel Sherman was talking about, certain wildcard teams that are going to be sellers, that he don't think that there's going to be some teams that could be 2 or 3 games out and they don't believe they're good enough and they're going to be sellers at the deadline. And then the New York Mets topic came up and Joel Sherman says he believes the New York Mets are for real. And I tend to agree with him. And the reason why I said this because this team shouldn't have been as bad as they are this year for 2.5 months, almost 3 months of the season. The lineup underperformed. The starting rotation has been, I would say, average, maybe very slightly above average. The bullpen has been probably above average for the most part. The bullpen was probably our best thing going for a month and a half when the team wasn't doing well. And remember, we had 9 blown leads late in games in May. And that's when the bullpen started to, show some cracks. So I think, and Joel Sherman said this, he said he believes that this Mets team still has another level. And it's hard to disagree with him because they do have really good players in this lineup, right? You see what happens when 1, 2, 3, 4 in your lineup is playing well and playing just to the back of their baseball cards. They don't have to be playing above and beyond the back of their baseball cards. They're playing to the back of their baseball cards. They do that. There's no reason why the Mets can't win more ball games than they have, right? The Mets, over this almost month stretch now, are scoring over 6 runs per ball game. The best in baseball, by the way, by almost a full run. So they're capable of doing this, even when some of them are not red hot, right? Pete Alonso cooled off a little bit, but he's still playing well. Martinez is absolutely lights out. Nimmo has been playing better. Lindor has cooled off a tad, but still playing well. The bat of Alvarez is a huge difference in this lineup. Now you got 5 deep in this lineup. And if you even want to put Vientos in there, that I'm not shocked that he got pushed down to the 7th hole today because Cole is a tough righty. And the Mets have, let's see, 1, 2. They mostly went with 3 lefties. They didn't go with a lot of lefties. I'm a little surprised by that. But Cole is, I know he's coming back from injury, and it's his 2nd start. And you would probably want to put more lefties there, but he is nasty against lefties. And he pounds the zone and pounds inside on lefties. So, just because you're lefty doesn't mean you can hit Garrett Cole. Right-handers do have a tough time as well, but you got to go with your best going forward. And I know people are talking about Jeff McNeil. And again, guys, the reason for this, and I know people don't like this, Jeff McNeil is not going anywhere until at least the deadline. So you can't, especially in a situation where you got injuries, you already lost a roster spot because Diaz is suspended. You can't bury Jeff McNeil on the bench and lose another roster spot. Because would you rather him play in a game or come up in a big spot late in the game as a pinch hitter? Because you know that's going to happen. So I'm not saying that Jeff McNeil deserves to be in this lineup because he probably doesn't. But at some point, like his last game against the Cubs on Sunday, he hit a couple of hard hit, probably 3 out of the 4 at-bats he had. He hit the ball hard. There was 2 great catchers that made him go 0 for 4. So he had that level swing on Sunday. Now he can revert very quickly and have that stupid uppercut swing and acting like he's Barry Bonds all of a sudden. And we all know he is not. I'm not happy about it. I've disliked Jeff McNeil for a few years now, and I don't. We should have traded extremely high on him after the 2022 offseason. You could have got major return for Jeff McNeil. The Seattle Mariners wanted Jeff McNeil over the last 3 seasons, and the Mets were so afraid to do it. And I thought it was a bad move. But a lot of people, right? A lot of the Mets fans that can't stand Jeff McNeil are the same ones that did not want to get rid of him. How can you get rid of a batting champion? Well, you know what? There were signs of Jeff McNeil being the player that he is now because it didn't seem like it was going to be sustainable because of the fact that major shifts were a big reason why he had a high average. The rules dictated McNeil being better. And on top of that, we talked about this. If Jeff McNeil does not bat 300, he does nothing well at all. He's not a great fielder. Him and Lindor really don't have a great connection up the middle. He plays multiple positions that where I guess is good. He's versatile, but he's not good enough to be considered a player that you can count on when he's not batting 300. He doesn't do anything good enough to say, all right, I'll keep him in the lineup because his defense is so good. It's not the case. So I'm not happy that McNeil's in the lineup, but he is batting 8th. He's batting between Vientos and Bader. Bader is just a guy, and I'm telling you right now, guys, Bader's going to do some damage tonight. Bader steps up in the big moments, right? Met fans didn't like the move. Why would you give $10 million to Bader? He's always hurt. When Bader's healthy, he is a solid player. He's a very good player, and he's a badass clutch performer. When he was a Yankee, he was the only one that stepped up in the playoffs offensively. We don't have to worry about him defensively because he's excellent. Watch out for Harrison Bader tonight. He is going to perform tonight against his old team. I'm confident Bader's going to do something here. Now, that doesn't mean the Mets are going to win, but I feel like Bader's going to step up here. Now, you hope that your 1 through 5 continues to be red hot as a core, right? You don't need, one, and this is the good thing too, right? The other game, Lindor went 0 for 4. The other day, Alonso went 0 for 4, right? Brandon Nimmo went 1 for 5. Yet, the other guys, when that guy's doing bad, they step up. And that's why this team has been consistently winning over this hot streak. Because a month ago, if one of those guys went 0 for 5, it seemed like another one of those core guys went 0 for 5. And it's hard to pick up all that slack at the top of the order and expect to win consistently during stretches like the Mets have. And this is an extended hot streak for the New York Mets. This isn't just a week and a half. This is going on 3.5 weeks now, where they've been playing the best baseball in baseball and of their season. So we'll see what happens. The Subway Series is an event, right? You're going to have 40+ thousand at Citifield, right? It's going to be the capacity. It always is. It's always fun. Cole is on the mound. You got David Peterson on the mound. And the interesting thing is that I believe Hayden brought it up yesterday on the roundtable, and I want to give him credit for that. The Yankees have not hit left-handed pitching well over this 3 weeks of baseball. They've been very bad against lefties. And I think not only did the Mets move Severino to the Cubs series because it was an important series for the Mets, it also was a plan to probably pitch lefties against the Yankees in Peterson and Manaea. And Peterson has pitched well. Now, we'll see how it goes today, but he has pitched well. And he's pitched at least 6 innings. So that's a good sign as well. So the way that Mendoza and Stearns planned this kind of benefits them in that Cubs series. It obviously did. The results are there. And we'll see if the results pan out the way they planned the lefties against the Yankees, who's not playing well. And we got to remember, guys, Mendoza, was with this Yankee organization for a long time. He knows every nook and cranny of this ball club. Yes, the team has changed for the most part a lot with the Soto, Grishams, and a couple of other players that were added with Verdugo and all that, but it's the same concept. So, and of course, this guy is kind of annoying. Just give me a second, guys. I must be a Yankee fan. Sorry about that, guys. So, putting the lefties in, obviously Mendoza Mendoza wants these wins, right? I think he probably got the short end of the stick for being all those years in the Yankee organization. And then here comes Aaron Boone from the ESPN booth and gets the job with no managerial experience when he was a coach for the Yankees. Been there so long. And I think there's a little bit of Mendoza that, yes, the Yankees gave him opportunities to be a coach, and that's great. You get the experience, but he kind of got, pushed to the side for a guy who had no experience. So there's definitely a little bit of animosity, probably in a respectful baseball sense, not personally as like, F you, but a little bit of baseball, animosity, like, damn, I feel like I can do this job and you never gave me the opportunity. Mendoza wants to win, right? I mean, he wants to win regardless because the Mets need to win games. But to beat your team that you were a coach for many, many years and never got the opportunity to be the man as the manager is kind of effed up. Let's be honest about that. And listen, everybody thought Craig Counsell was going to be the Mets manager. Clearly, Carlos Mendoza turned some heads during his interview. And David Stearns even said it, right? Mendoza was an option, but he was never the favorite. So with Mendoza proven that he turned some heads in the front office and he's respected around baseball, and the New York Yankees never gave him the light of day to be a manager, and it wasn't really an option to be a manager when they had the opening after Girardi. They took a guy from the booth with no experience over him, without even him being a finalist to be a manager. So there's a little bit of, I want to beat them because I want to show them. And it's obviously a former team. I don't care what sport you play. When you face a team that kind of did you wrong, you want to get back to them. You want to get it back to them. You want to beat them down. A little bit of smirk on Mendoza's face if the Mets, win today's game. Because right now, guys, and I'm telling you this right now, if the Mets win today, it's going to be very interesting how the Met fans are going to react. Not only have the Mets been playing the best baseball of their season and the hottest team in baseball, the best baseball in baseball right now, they beat the Yankees in game 1. They beat Cole, which who knows if he's all the way back. We'll clearly see. It's a second start, right? It's a lot to X of Garrett Cole coming back from injury. He's probably got a pitch count. And in the Mets case, what this lineup has to do is make him work, right? Don't swing at his garbage, which Garrett Cole don't throw a lot of garbage. Garrett Cole goes after you. Now, his control might still not be where it was in 2023 in his Cy Young year because, well, he just came back and he's pitching his second game, and his 2 games that he's pitching was against his division rivals in the Orioles and now his cross-time rivals in the Mets. So it's 2 big games for Garrett Cole, and he pitched pretty decent for the limited number of innings he pitched against the Orioles, but the Mets got to do what they need to do. They got to make him work. You got to foul off tough pitches. You got to work the counts. You got to raise that pitch count. The higher the pitch count, the more likely you're going to get into the Yankees bullpen that is struggling. They're not the Yankees bullpen that everybody likes to see, that always has good bullpens. They were good early on, but they have not been good over the last month. They have not been good. So you want to get into that Yankees bullpen. So work the counts, get that pitch count up of Garrett Cole's and get into that bad, or I want to say bad, that's not fair. Get into that I would say that struggling, that's a better word. Struggling Yankees bullpen right now. And that's what the Mets need to do. Now, I'm assuming the Yankees are going to do the same thing, right? No Diaz. Everybody's got to get pushed up in the Mets bullpen. Obviously, the game plan is probably to get the Mets starters out of the game, get to their bullpen. Right now, if you look at the numbers, the Mets bullpen actually has been slightly better, actually a little bit more better than the Yankees bullpen over the last month. And yes, that was with Diaz, but other guys have performed well as well. So I wonder if who's the closer going to be right now? Is it going to be a closer by matchup? Because we all talk about this all the time. The 8th inning might be the most important inning for our pitcher, right? It might be the middle of the lineup for the Yankees in the 8th inning, and you want to get through that. And then the 9th inning, you go on what you got to do. So don't be surprised if a Nunez or a Reed Garrett come in the 8th inning against the middle of the Yankees lineup if the Mets are leading or a tie ball game to try to get their best hitters out with our best pitchers available in the bullpen. And then the 9th inning is kind of like, all right, this is who we have left. Let's go. Right? The Mets did that a lot in 2022. They did it. They tried to do it in 23, but there were so many injuries, didn't work out. In 2022, they did this so many times. How many times did they bring in Edwin Diaz? Even though they did pitch him 2 innings sometimes, but sometimes they pitched him in the 8th inning in the best part of the lineup to avoid the best part of the lineup doing damage, and then you would see somebody else coming in the 9th inning for like the bottom of the order or the later ladder of the lineup. So expect that tonight. If the Mets have a lead or it's a tie ball game going later in the ball game, you're going to see Nunez or Garrett in the 8th inning if it's the middle of the lineup or even the top of the lineup. So you have to expect that. And I know people will get upset, but Mendoza is working without a closer right now. We can be completely honest about that. Reed Garrett has been better since his little struggles. So I don't know if the Mets are just going to put, okay, Garrett, you're going to be the closer. Now, I don't mind that, but I think they're going to go more matchup related. Matchup, bullpen by committee when it comes to the later innings of the 8th and the 9th, probably. So the Diaz loss it does hurt, obviously. But we do have enough capable guys to do the job. Nunez and Garrett has been really good, right? We can talk about, I'm not sure if Drew Smith's going to be available. I think it was a blister. That might be an issue, right? I know nobody wants to talk about Ottavino, but you're going to see Ottavino. You can't bury him in the bullpen because who else do you trust? I'm not saying you trust Ottavino, but there ain't that much in this bullpen that you can go to, right? So, looking at the roster right now, and I want to pull it up just to have an idea right now of the Mets and what they're doing right now when it comes to their bullpen. I mean, how many options do you really have that you can trust? So let me just check something, guys. All right, let's go. I want to check something. All right, let's go to this. Excuse me. All right, guys. So let's just go to this real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. So here we go. All right. So let's see what we got here. All right. So, we really don't have a lot, guys. Like it's tough, right? You got Ottavino, you got Smith, you got Diekman, you got Hauser, you got Gary, you got Young, you got Nunez. That's basically it. That is basically it, guys. When you're looking at it in this whole spectrum, right? No Sean Reed Foley, no obviously Fujinami, no Raley, no Diaz. So you got Ottavino, Drew Smith, Diekman, Hauser, Garrett, Young, and Nunez. That's it. So you're limited on what you can use right now, right? And there was news today to replace Starlin Marte. Ben Gamel has come up from AAA, so that should help our bench a little bit. Gamel has been hitting over 300, showing a little bit of power. And another guy that has been got another Stearns edition in the offseason, picking him, I believe he picked him up on waivers, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a part of this team right now. So he can help that bench right now as well. So with the bullpen, I just gave you the names. They're all getting pushed up. Now, everybody will have their opinion on who should be the closer. I don't think there's a set closer. I think it's going to be based on matchups. And you can't blame Mendoza for doing matchups right now, because what is he supposed to do? You don't have Diaz. When you have Diaz, you know who your closer is. You know who your ninth inning guy is when you have a lead or a tie ball game going into the ninth. So you're going to have Diaz, and you don't. So, I like that Nunez has electric stuff, but we haven't seen him there yet. Are they going to put him in a pressurized situation at Citifield in the Subway Series and say, "Hey, Noonie, you are the closer today"? I don't know if they're going to do that. So it's probably going to be Reed Garrett if everything kind of falls into place, but we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a bullpen by committee based on matchup. So we'll see. Yeah, easy. We can talk about the bullpen being in trouble, but let's not act like the bullpen hasn't been in trouble. Like, the bullpen has still struggled during this hot streak. They haven't been great. They've been slightly above average, but they haven't been great, and the Mets have still been winning ball games. So, yeah, it sucks, but let's not act like this bullpen was, red hot, and now we lost a couple of guys because of injury and Diaz because of the sticky stuff and getting suspended. So this team hasn't pitched well in the bullpen much better than during this hot streak. They were okay, but there was a lot of shaky moments with this bullpen over this hot streak as well. I could probably name you 4 or 5 games where the bullpen could have easily blown these games late in the ball game. So the bullpen has been a problem. So it's not like the bullpen has been carrying this team during this hot streak. It's been the offense and probably the starting pitching that's been pretty damn good, not the bullpen. The bullpen probably has been the bad part of this hot streak. Mike, I'm not sure why you want to send Peterson down. He's pitched over 6 innings in every start since he's come back from injury. He's been probably our best pitcher other than Severino over his, 3-4 starts since he's coming back from injury. Peterson's been good. He's limited his walks. His strikeouts are up, and he's going deep in games. He's going 6+ innings. I believe he went 7 innings and twice 6 innings and pitched well. So worrying about options with Peterson, he's the least of my worries right now. The worries we should have, is probably Minaya and McGill. So it could be a lot worse. But Peterson is not my concern right now. Right? Peterson has pitched well since coming back from injury. So he might have an option, but I'm not. I haven't. I mean, he's been up and down a couple. Remember, he was injured, so an option doesn't matter there. But I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I'm not thinking about options right now for players yet. That's David Stern's job, not mine. So I don't know. I'm assuming he might have 1, maybe 2, but who knows how many times he came up and down over his Mets career so far. It's a lot. So, yeah, it could be a lot worse, but we're worrying about David Peterson right now, who's pitched well. And look, this is a big start for him, right? This is against a good Yankees lineup. Really good Yankees lineup. Dangerous. And I'm looking at the Yankees lineup. I was just looking at it. Give me a second. Just looking at it. All right, here we go. They do have Trent Grisham, I believe, in the lineup today. He's been, they don't have him in the lineup. That is interesting. Okay, well, they don't. I'm surprised Trent Grisham is not in the lineup because he kills the Mets every opportunity he plays against them. But it's Volpe, Soto, Judge, Torres, Verdugo, JD Davis, who is now a Yankee. He'll probably kill us because that's what happens. DJ LeMayo and Jones and Trevino. So it's not an easy lineup, right? You got a lot of the, Judge is batting 300, Soto's batting 300, Volpe 270. You know, you go in the bottom of the order, kind of struggling, but they're a dangerous team, right? They're a dangerous team. Yeah, well, Daniel, as I brought up, the Yankees have not played well offensively against lefties. So that was probably the mindset when they were like, hey, let's move to Severino to the Cubs series. Let's not put the pressure on him to pitch against the Yankees and make it a spectacle because he used to pitch for them, right? It took an important series and one of your important pitchers and moved them. Because as the Yankees game series is important now, because that is the games ahead of us, and that is the game on our schedule. The Cubs series was a lot more important because it had tiebreaker ramifications, and you're in a wild card race with teams that are right around you, and the Cubs are one of them. So, the Yankees have not. I believe it's over almost a month now. They have not hit lefties well at all. And right now, Judge is probably the only one that has been destroying the ball over the Yankees. I don't want to call it struggling because that's not fair because they've been damn good. I would say hitting the speed bump over the last 3 weeks. Judge has been the only positive. Soto hasn't been playing great. Verdugo has dropped a little bit. Volpe still has been pretty good, but he wasn't as red hot as he was the first month and a half. After you get past the top three, I mean, you got Torres, Verdugo, Davis, LeMahieu, Jones, Trevino. I mean, who's running away from that right now? I mean, those are the guys that usually kill the Mets. But right now, I am not letting Judge beat me. I said this yesterday on the roundtable. Don't let Aaron Judge beat you. I don't care if you give him the Barry Bonds treatment. Don't let him beat you, right? I just talked about it. Gleyber Torres is behind Aaron Judge. I will rather have Gleyber Torres beat me than Aaron Judge. I'd rather make that a possibility than pitching a Judge and letting him do damage. I'd rather lose by going after the lower players on this roster in this lineup than letting Aaron Judge beat me. There's no reason why the Mets should pitch to Aaron Judge. No reason, especially with men on base. And if the Mets do have a lead, you don't want to have guys on base and give up a cookie to Aaron Judge and he gets you right back into the ball game. Judge is the best player in baseball. No guns about it. He's good in every which way. Pick a stat, pick where you got to play him. The guy plays center field and he's 900 feet tall. I mean, it's amazing. Who knows how much better he would be if he'd never gotten hurt over his career. He's a great player. He is the best player in baseball. This is coming from a Mets fan who can't stand the Yankees. But I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that. I mean, I would be lying to you guys if I said that. If I said he wasn't the best player in baseball, he does have 70 RBIs. He's on a pace to being extremely close to his American League home run record, and he's probably gonna if he stays healthy. And listen, I don't call for injuries. If he stays healthy, he's probably gonna have more RBIs than he did in 2022. Excuse me. So he's on pace to be right near or possibly surpass his American League home run record, and the RBIs are absolutely insane. The guy is a freaking beast, and that's what I'm saying. Don't let him beat you. Like, you cannot do that. You are playing with fire. Stupidly. Especially with the Yankees lineup that has been struggling. And after Judge, who are you afraid of? Verdugo? Torres? J.D. Davis, who just became a Yankee? LeMahieu? Jones? Trevino? I'm sorry. I'll let those guys beat me every day of the week. You can't let Aaron Judge beat you. And let's hope that's not the case. Because that's a huge problem if you're going to... Now, you can pitch careful. If there's 2 outs and nobody on, then you go after Judge. Because a solo home run isn't a killer unless it's late in the ball game. But if it's early in the game and you got 2 outs and nobody on, yeah, then you can attack Aaron Judge. Because he can only hurt you by 1 run. But with people on, be careful. If you got a man or 2 on, I'm not, trying to get this guy out and be around the plate, because when you're trying to get a guy out, you kind of be trying to be around the plate, getting some strikes. He hits one over the wall. That's 2-3 run homer. Now you're in trouble. I'd rather load the bases than and go have my chances with Gleyber Torres than Aaron Judge. All right. Yeah, well, listen. I agree with you. I'm not. Look, I agree with you. But again, you can't just bury McNeil. We got to understand this, guys. We are already down the roster spot because of Diaz's suspension, right? You're playing with one less roster spot right now. One less bullpen arm, but one less roster spot. What are you supposed to? You can't bury Jeff McNeil. Because if he doesn't play, he will pinch hit late in the ball game. He will. Right? You use a lot of your guns when you need to. Either you play him or you don't play him at all and you waste another roster spot. I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, I don't want to see Jeff McNeil anymore. I don't want to see this guy or that guy. Guys, you can't just bury a guy on your roster and think it's going to help your team overall. It's not. You're losing roster spots. Just because he's been bad, what if Mendoza's mentality was Jeff McNeil on Sunday hit all 4 balls that he was 0 for 4 hard, and he didn't hit pop-ups, he hit line drives. 2 of them were really good catches that should have been base hits. And probably 3, if they didn't shade him to one side of the outfield, it probably would have been a base. He could have been 3 for 4. Now, results matter, obviously, but that is probably the best game minus the result that Jeff McNeil had at bat-wise. He actually leveled out his swing and wasn't trying to hit home runs. Now, that might overall mean nothing, and he still might go over 4 today. But, Daniel, I appreciate that. I just pulled that stat up. Jeff McNeil is batting 400 against Garrett Cole. And, oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this stat. Garrett Cole has his worst ERA against the New York Mets. Out of all the major league teams, his ERA is worse against the Mets. He doesn't pitch well against the Mets. Now, most of that was probably in Pittsburgh, but over his Yankee tenure, he's pitched against the Mets a couple of times already. And the Mets beat him up. I remember in 2022, they beat him up. I don't remember last year, but he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. I can't remember. But he has the worst ERA against the Mets out of all the teams in Major League Baseball. That is hard to fathom. When I saw that, and I had to check it because I didn't believe it when I saw it. I'm like, who's trolling us? And it was true. He has over a 5 ERA against the Mets, if I'm not mistaken. It might be a high 4, but I think it's over a 5 ERA. Now, that means nothing to me, to be quite honest. I don't care about past stats at all because Garrett Cole is probably a better pitcher now over the last 2. Now, obviously, he just came back from injury, but probably a better pitcher now than he was even 3 years ago. And the stats tell you that. So I don't really, I don't like to say because, look, McNeil's in the lineup because his numbers against Cole is probably the reason why. Now, those McNeil numbers are probably 2020, 2021, 2022. So that's a possibility. But listen, you can't bury Jeff McNeil, right? You want to play him once a week. That's cute and all. But all you're doing is hurting your overall team. You are. Especially when you're already down a roster spot because of Diaz. You bury McNeil and nobody wants to see him. Well, you have him on the roster, so now you're playing with what, 23 guys? That's what you want to do for this next stretch of games? Because you don't like Jeff McNeil and Jeff McNeil hasn't played well? Like, you just can't do that. Now, I'd rather play Jose Iglesias. I agree with you guys, but you can't just bury him. And look, Mendoza saw McNeil have much better. I'm not even talking just okay at-bats. Much better at-bats. Look at the at-bats he had. He worked the counts, which is McNeil of the old who worked the counts. And he had really good swings on balls, and some of them should have fell. Great catches made him go 0 for 4. Could have had a couple of hits. Could have made people say, "Oh, look, Jeff McNeil, look at that. That's good." Right? Maybe Mendoza is probably saying, "Listen, you hit, you had some good at bats. Let me put you back out there with some old numbers." Because look, I think it's more of a confidence level with Jeff McNeil now, to be quite honest. I think he's completely in his head. And I thought that was very similar to Lindor and Alonso early struggles as well. It was getting to them. And mentally, when you always been a hitter in your professional career, your confidence can get shattered. And that's where I think Jeff McNeil is now. I think his confidence is shot. But how do you get that confidence back? Not saying he's going to be a 300 hitter, but confidence where he can be still useful to this team. You got to at least give him a chance, especially against a pitcher that he has career numbers again. You don't think Jeff McNeil knows that? He knows he's hit Garrett Cole in the past. So with his good at-bats, really good at-bats on Sunday, even though the results weren't there, and the numbers he has against Garrett Cole, Mendoza's trying to get that confidence back in Jeff McNeil. Because if Jeff McNeil finds it at least a little bit, that is major good news for the New York Mets in this lineup. That's already been pretty damn good, scoring the most runs per game in Major League Baseball over this month stretch. 6.4 runs per ball game, the best in baseball. That's right, the New York Mets offense, the best offense in baseball over this stretch. And it's almost been a month. It's been about going on 3.5 weeks. So it's kind of hard to say it's only a chump size of stats. No. It's almost a month. And this almost month of a pretty damn good stretch got them back into relevancy. So with that said, the New York Mets in about 40 minutes play the New York Yankees at Citifield, Subway Series 2024. Listen, I know people complain about McNeil. I know people are not happy that Iglesias is not playing, but I want everybody just to understand the situation that Mendoza is in right now. The roster is limited right now. The roster is a little scarce. You're playing with 24 guys right now. If you want to bury Jeff McNeil because he sucked, you're playing with 23 guys on the roster. You can't do that. It's a dangerous game to play. You can't do that. You can't shy away from Jeff McNeil because he's not playing well. You got to put these guys in the lineup. I'm telling you guys, he would have pinch hit late in the game. I'm telling you that right now. If there was a righty on the mound, he would have pinch hit for Jose Iglesias. I'm telling you, because Mendy has done it multiple times already. So McNeil was getting in the game either way. At least give him a couple at bats early in the game to see what he can do. Gets a couple of hits. Maybe that confidence comes back from them Sunday at bats and that Garrett Cole stat line over McNeil's career over Cole. Now, it might mean nothing, and he still might go 0 for 4 and look like shit. But this is probably the prime time. This is probably the right time to put Jeff McNeil in the lineup because he had good at-bats on Sunday and because of his numbers against Garrett Cole. It's kind of, it kind of like played itself that way. Now, I'm not saying Jeff McNeil's going to get hits here, but wouldn't this be the time you want to put him in the lineup, knowing he had good at-bats on Sunday and the numbers against Garrett Cole? Now, we can go back for this whole season, and he probably had good numbers against a lot of pitchers, but because he had good at-bats on Saturday, and he did look like the McNeil that we've known being the 300 hitter, the way he was hitting those line drives on Sunday, and that's where it starts, right? He started to hit line drives. He started to have that leveled swing. Now, it's only 4 at-bats. I'm not going to go crazy, but it's a sign. And Mendoza is trying everything to get Jeff McNeil going. Because if Jeff McNeil gets going, and he finds it, guys, imagine Jeff McNeil finding it. And I'm not saying he's going to hit 300 this year because it's going to be very hard for him to do so. But what if he gets that average up to 270, 280? And he finds it with the top of the lineup. That's where the Jeff McNeil we all like. We'll see how that goes. I'm not confident about that, but I'm trying to give you what Mendoza is thinking and what he saw on Sunday and what the numbers say against Cole. Because it is a confidence situation right now with Jeff McNeil. I don't think it's talent. I honestly think it's confidence at this point. When you used to doing something so good, and that was your best asset as a major leaguer, and that is not there, you question your capabilities. Your confidence is shot. And that's hard for a major leaguer who has egos up the wazoo. So, look, Mets at 37 and 39. Their goal is to get to 500. Their goal is to remain relevant in this wild card over the next 30 games before the deadline. It starts tonight against the Yankees, against Cole, with David Peterson on the mound at Citifield. That's all we need to worry about. Don't need to worry about tomorrow. Don't need to worry about nothing else right now except winning today's game by any means necessary. Because we fall in love on how we win instead of did we win. I said this 2 years ago in 2022 when people used to say, oh, the Mets don't hit a lot of home runs, but they're winning ball games. And people complained that the Mets were winning, but they complained on how they won. Who cares? I don't care. If the Mets have one hit the whole ball game and that one hit wins them a ball game, I don't care. Now, it's a talking point, but we got the W. We're focused too much on how we win instead of asking the question, did we win? Remember, did we win is a hell of a lot more important than how we won. Because I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if the offense goes absolutely nuts, and that's the only reason why we win, and we win 11-10 game, and the pitching sucked. Did we win? Great. That's all I care about. So remember, just win, baby, as Chris always likes to say. Just win, baby, regardless of how we do it. Find a way. This Mets team that a lot of us buried when they were 11 games under 500, which is very understandable. They fought their way back. They're playing their best baseball of the year. And they're red hot right now. So we tend to not give them enough credit. And they still haven't been running on all cylinders because the offense has been going, the bullpen has been struggling. The starting pitching has been better, the offense struggles. But guess what? Every day during this stretch, every game, there was another reason why the Mets won. Oh, the Mets won 2-1. What happened? Oh, the offense didn't score, but the pitching held it down. Oh, wow, the Mets won 6-5. How did that happen? Well, the pitching wasn't great, but the offense showed up. They're winning in ways that they did not in May. So be confident tonight because they are playing better than the Yankees right now. Now, overall, they're probably not close to being a better team than the Yankees, but it's baseball. Anybody can lose, anybody can win on any given day. The worst team in baseball can beat the best team in baseball. That's why baseball is the best sport ever. Because not a lot of times the worst team in a sport beats the best team in a sport. So baseball is fun. Baseball can drive you nuts. The New York Mets always drive us nuts. But right now, if you're not confident in a team that has playing the best baseball of their season and the hottest team in baseball, then when are you ever going to enjoy watching Mets baseball when they're playing the best baseball of the season and they're one of the hottest teams? This is the time you should be. I'm not saying be overconfident, but be confident that this team has found ways to win regardless of what's going on in the ball game. So tonight against Cole, the keys to the game, number one, work the pitch count of Garrett Cole. Second start back from injury. He's going to have a pitch count. Work the counts. Get that pitch count up. Key number two, get to the Yankees bullpen. The Yankees bullpen has not been good since the middle of May. They've struggled badly. They've lost a lot of games because of their bullpen. Get into their bullpen. They have not been good. And number three, the last key, Play the way that you have been playing over this 3.5 week stretch. The lineup has been outstanding. Anytime a team made a mistake, the Mets have made them pay during the stretch. That's the key. The Yankees make a mistake, you make them pay. 3 keys. Work the pitch count of Garrett Cole, who is on a pitch count. Get to the Yankees bullpen. And when the team makes mistakes, when the Yankees make a mistake, you pounce and you make them pay. That is the 3 keys to success for this series as a whole, this 2-game set. But for specifically tonight, get Cole's pitch count up, get to the Yankees bullpen, and make them pay when they make a mistake. Once again, guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in to the Amazin Mets pregame show. Running solo today. CP couldn't join us today, but you know what CP's going to say. Just win, baby. That's what we got to do. With that said, guys, I appreciate all you guys. Enjoy the Subway Series tonight. Enjoy Cole versus Peterson, Mets versus Yankees. The spotlight is on New York tonight, and that is always fun. With that said, everybody have a great night. Enjoy the game tonight. Let's go Mets, and I'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets.